All right, today we're going to dive into a modern fable that has honestly changed millions of lives. It's this incredible story about a high-flying lawyer who basically had everything, lost himself in the process, and then found a way of life that was so much richer and more meaningful. Let's get right into it. So just look at this contrast. On one side, you've got Julian Mantle, the legal superstar. We're talking a seven-figure income, a private jet, and, of course, his prized red Ferrari. But then, look at the other side. This is the Julian who came back from the East, looking youthful, absolutely radiant, and owning literally nothing except this deep, unshakable sense of peace. The question that just hangs over this whole story is, how in the world does a transformation like that even happen?
You see, Julian was the top dog, a brilliant, fearless lawyer who was completely obsessed with his work. He was tough, relentless, and would pull 18-hour days without blinking. But underneath all that success, he was just being eaten alive by this constant hunger for more. More prestige, more glory, more money.
53. That's how old Julian actually was. But the insane stress of his lifestyle had him looking like he was in his late 70s. I mean, the constant late-night dinners, the fancy cigars, the never-ending pressure, it was all catching up to him. That spark, that zest for life, was really starting to fade. And then it happened. Right in the middle of a packed courtroom, the legendary Julian Mantle just collapsed. A massive heart attack. And that was it. That was the wake-up call that forced him to look in the mirror and face his own mortality, and just how spiritually empty his life had become.
So this crisis, it became his greatest opportunity. Julian made a decision that sounds absolutely crazy. He gave up the law, sold every single thing he owned, and yes, that includes the Ferrari, and he just took off for India on this personal odyssey. He was desperate to find some real answers.
His journey took him all over, from one small village to the next, and everywhere he went, he started hearing these whispers, these legends, about a mystical group of sages living way, way up in the Himalayas. People said they had discovered a system for living a profoundly better life. He knew right then he had to find them. After this incredibly difficult climb, he actually found them, the sages of Savannah. But here's the thing. Their wisdom wasn't passed down in some boring lecture. Nope. The leader, a man named Yogi Raman, shared it all through a very strange and mystical fable, a story that held all the keys to an enlightened life. Now, the fable itself sounds a little weird at first, I'll admit, but every single element is a really powerful symbol for a timeless virtue. So the garden, that's all about mastering your mind. The lighthouse, that's your life's purpose. The sumo wrestler represents this idea of constant self-improvement. The pink wire cable is about self-discipline, the stopwatch is about respecting your time, and those beautiful roses, they're about serving others. So let's kick things off with the first, and honestly, the most fundamental virtue of them all, the one represented by that magnificent garden. This whole idea of mastering your mind, it's the bedrock for everything else. The core idea is this simple analogy. Your mind is a garden. If you take care of it, if you nurture it, it will absolutely flourish. But if you let the weeds, things like worry, anxiety, and fear take root, you'll never ever find peace. The sages were really clear on this. You have to stand guard at the gate of your garden. And get this, the sages shared this pretty shocking fact. The average person has something like 60,000 thoughts a day, and a whopping 95% of them are the exact same thoughts they had the day before. They called this the tyranny of impoverished thinking. We get stuck in these negative mental loops. This quote just cuts right to the chase. A single negative thought, they said, is like an embryo. It starts off tiny, but it grows and grows until it just takes on a life of its own. Worry literally drains your mind of its power, and in the end, it really damages your soul. Okay, so that brings us to the million-dollar question, right? How do you actually do this? How do you take back control from all that mental chatter and start cultivating a mind that's positive and calm? Well, the sages offered a really simple but incredibly profound technique. It's been practiced for over 4,000 years, and it's called the heart of the rose. The whole point is to build your concentration, which is really the root of all mental mastery. The practice itself is unbelievably simple. You just find a quiet spot, and you gaze at the center of a fresh rose. Now, at first, your mind is going to be all over the place. That is totally normal. The real work is to just gently, without judgment, bring your focus back to the rose.
over and over again. This simple act is what trains your mind to focus only on what you tell it to. Okay, so the second symbol from the fable is that towering lighthouse. And this represents another absolutely crucial principle for an enlightened life, having a purpose. The sages call this concept dharma. It's this ancient belief that every single one of us has a unique mission here on Earth, a special set of gifts that we're meant to share with the world. And the real key to lasting fulfillment is discovering what that purpose is for you. You know, lasting happiness, it doesn't come from just wandering around aimlessly. It comes from achievement. It comes from steadily moving toward goals that are clearly defined and totally aligned with your main purpose. And when you find your dharma, man, everything changes. You wake up with this boundless energy. Your mind becomes focused, which pushes out worry. And your work, it starts to feel more like play. You just tap into this incredible sense of inner harmony.
So the wisdom of these sages, it's not just some fascinating story about a monk in the Himalayas. It's a timeless, practical system for anyone, for you, for me, who wants to build a richer, more meaningful life right here, right now. In the end, the message is actually pretty simple, but it's so profound. Your outer world is just a mirror of your inner world. If you really want to change your life, you have to start on the inside first. Tend to the garden of your mind and find the lighthouse of your purpose. So, I'll leave you with this question to chew on. If you take a good, honest look at the garden of your own mind, what is the one weed, that one recurring negative thought, that one nagging worry that you're going to commit to removing starting today?